This is the moment you've all been waiting for.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're back at it with another episode of Talkin MMA. Yeah, this week, man, it's tough. You know, it's UFC 273. No surprise. Not too excited about it. You know, like, here's why. There's good fights on the card. I am excited about it. Let me rephrase that. But not the greatest pay-per-view in my eyes, because when I see the title fights, whether it's one fight, two fight, three title fights, like, I want to see a title fight that's good, that I genuinely don't know what's going to happen. Or maybe I could say, well, you know, there's a dominant champion, and I think he'll win, but this contender, you never know. It's on, like, this fight here, there's no unknowns here in these two main events. There's some weird similarities that I just don't like. And let's start it off. Shit, I'm sounding super negative here, but I'm excited about the card. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just saying, overall, I think it's a good pay-per-view with the exception of the two title fights, which that's a big asterisk for me. You know, because I think even like the prelims are good. It's a loaded up card. I like the fights that are, I don't love them, but except for like the Hamzat Burns one, obviously, people's main event, quote unquote. But I don't love this card, I guess, overall, you know. So let's get right to it. Back to it. Alexander Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie, right? Look at this, a minus 720 favorite. Now, Alexander Volkanovski is a guy who is clearly shown he is the either 1A or 1B of the featherweight division, along with Max Holloway. And this is something that at this point, I just want to see those two guys fight. Like, I've seen everything with the exception of guys that still have to get a couple more wins. You know, so with the exception of guys like Bryce Mitchell and Arnold Allen, who still have to get a couple fights under their belt, obviously in that division, to sort of prove it. Everyone else, it's been a revolving door. Whether they haven't directly fought for a title one way or another, we've seen matchups go certain ways where we could sort of figure out where this is going, right? Why would I say that? Alexander Volkanovski never fought Korean Zombie, right? But a lot of people are already thinking about how this matchup's going to go and already have their opinion, and the odds makers certainly do at minus 720 based on what? Because they never fought. But we're just taking the matchups in that top 5, in that top 7, that revolving door matchups, and we're sort of pairing it together. Now, I know MMA math makes no sense a lot of times, right? So in that sense, it's something that anything could happen. You know, we obviously know that Korean Zombie's got power. Could this be a lot better of a fight than people think? I could definitely see it. I could almost even see this going to a decision. You know, I think Volkanovski is going to get the finish. You know, I think Volkanovski probably wears him down eventually. Volkanovski's pressure, I just think, is going to be too much for the Korean Zombie. So I got to imagine that, you know, Volkanovski is able to walk him down, is able to put that pressure on him and wear him out through maybe 3-4 rounds. I think he finishes it around there. Would it shock me if the Zombie goes a distance and it's a competitive 5 rounds, but a unanimous decision goes to the champion? No, it wouldn't. So, look, to say I'm not going to watch it, I think that's too much, right? But I'm not crazy excited about it. You know, it's when you have a guy in a division that's the champion and he's supposed to fight someone that everyone knows he's supposed to fight. Now, granted, the fact that he's not fighting that guy being Max Holloway, the fact that he's not fighting that guy, it's not his fault. It is what it is. Max had to pull out of the fight. If I'm not mistaken, wasn't this originally supposed to be Max and Volkanovski, the trilogy, originally? And then it ended up being this. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's the case. So I get it. You know, and well done on Volkanovski's end to just keep that alive and just not wait out for like the Max fight. He's fighting the contenders. He's fighting them all. You know, come one, come all. So you got to give him credit for that. But overall, I can't blame anybody. It's just not a fun fight for me. It's not a fun fight. Obviously, Korean Zombie's going to take the title fight, but Korean Zombie's had his setbacks. You know, you look at the Yair Rodriguez fight where, I mean, he was winning. That probably should have gone his way, right? And that would have changed a lot of things. You know, it would have maybe swung some more momentum in his favor because one win in the top 5 is just so impactful, so critical. But again, like, you look at him and what has he won? 1 fight in a row? He's on a 1-fight win streak. And didn't he lose a couple before that, if I'm not mistaken? That's my thing with him. That's right, he did beat Edgar, no? Yeah, so he beat Ige. That's a good win for him. He beat Dan Ige. Lost to Ortega, but he got outclassed by Ortega. I think we could all agree on that. He beats Frankie Edgar, right? That was that early finish. He loses to Moicano. He's had setbacks. You look at other guys that are ranked in that division, like, let's say, Arnold Allen, back to that. Bryce Mitchell. Those are really the only guys that you look right now and say, oh, yeah, they haven't really had any setbacks, so I wouldn't really hesitate with them. But you still can't do it because they're not even in the top 5, either one, and they haven't even fought anyone in the top 5, really. So how can you do that, you know? You can't. So it's a weird situation. Does it make sense that they're doing it almost, Korean Zombie versus Volkanovski? If you actually look at the rankings by process of elimination, you know, just how it played out, Max was next, he got hurt, whatever the case may be, it kind of does make sense because you're not going to give it to Yair, right? He lost. You're not going to give it to Brian Ortega. He just fought for the title and lost again for the second time. Max Holloway was the original one, right? So cancel him out. Calvin Kattar got just dog walked by Max Holloway a year ago. Granted, he did look really good against Giga, but still. And then, I mean, you get Bryce Mitchell, but he's not ready yet. It's too soon. You can't beat Edson Barboza, who's ranked like number 10 in the division at the time or something like that, and then just get a title shot. It doesn't work that way. Arnold Allen beat a guy, and he's number 6 now, and I'm a big fan, and I think he would actually make more sense than a Bryce Mitchell, but Arnold Allen beat a guy who's not even in the division. At least not in the division anymore. He's probably back in it, but he was at 155 for some time, and he was unranked. So was it a good win? Yeah, I love Dan Hooker, but I'm just saying Arnold Allen needs to beat a Yair Rodriguez, a Brian Ortega, a Max Holloway, a Korean Zombie, a Calvin Kattar at this point in time to get a title shot. Or maybe even a Josh Emmett, but he's ranked behind you. So again, this is a fight that I'm running you guys through all this because this is like the state of the featherweight division. This is why the UFC went for this fight. This is why this fight is happening. So I get it. I get it, but it doesn't mean I can't not be excited for it, you know? Doesn't mean that. There's no reason. I would have loved to have the Jan Sterling fight over it even as a main event, which I don't even love that fight if I'm being honest. But you know, I know the UFC doesn't like to do that. If it's like a higher weight class, they like to sort of abide by that. The higher weight class goes higher on the card, especially if it's like title fights, something along those lines. Yeah, so we got Koreans, Aljamain Sterling, rather, and Petr Yan. Second fight, the first fight was a fight where Petr Yan, I'd say Aljamain Sterling probably won the first round. He won super early in the fight. Didn't dominate or anything, but I thought he won the first fight. Pretty close, competitive round. Won the first round, not the fight. Won the first round, rather. And Petr Yan started just wearing him down. Put it on him in rounds 2, 3, 4, and you saw it. You know, you saw the fight that it almost, maybe not could have been finished a couple times, but Aljo was in some danger. And it was certainly wearing on him. Petr Yan has a style that just wears on you throughout the fight. He's always going to be there. Always going to be there. And the fact that Aljamain Sterling even got around on him, which I think he did in that first fight, it doesn't say much to me because Petr Yan's been willing to give up some early rounds. We saw like the Sandhagen fight where he gave up early rounds just to feel it out. But once he gets you, once he gets your timing, once he feels confident in the fight, it's good night for you. Good night. Because let's face it, he's got to be the best bantamweight on the planet, right? I mean, I don't think we're going to pick anybody else. I don't think that's disputable. You could say TJ Dillashaw, guys like that, but I mean, to sit here and say that Aljamain Sterling is the best bantamweight on the planet after the first fight against Petr Yan, I don't think it's a fair assessment, you know? I don't think it's a fair assessment to Yan. Is it fair to say Yan was an idiot for kneeing him in the head like that? Yes, that's fair to say. But nonetheless, you could still see who the better guy is. And, you know, what I want to see more than anything, I don't know about you guys, I really want to see Petr Yan fight TJ Dillashaw. I think that's a big fight for the bantamweight division. I think those are the two best guys on the planet in that weight class. So if Petr Yan can get past Aljamain Sterling, which I think he should, he was doing fairly well the first time around. And if you can have, you know, TJ Dillashaw get past maybe a Jose Aldo or maybe even wait out for a title shot, because people are forgetting that he beat Sandhagen. He just hasn't been around. His name hasn't been in the hat because of the injury he sustained in the Sandhagen fight. But TJ comes back and Jan makes it out of this. That's a fight I want to see. That's a fight I want to see. You know, unlike the Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie fight, like, I think that's just, to me, definitively Volkanovski wins that. You know, again, yeah, it's MMA, 4-ounce gloves, all that. I get it. But I think Volkanovski wins this going away. The odds makers, again, back that up. And then when we got Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan, right? It's a little closer. So it's a little more interesting. Is it interesting? No. But it's more interesting rather than the Volkanovski versus Korean Zombie fight. It just is. So again, I think that this is what's going to happen in this second fight. I think it'll be a carbon copy of the first fight. I really do. You know, Aljamain Sterling, the only success Aljamain Sterling's going to have is if he's able to get him on the ground and get to his back somehow. If he's on top of him on the ground, or they're in some scramble on the ground or something, Aljamain Sterling can thrive in those situations. He's a very good jiu-jitsu practitioner. You know it. And, you know, clearly choked out Sandhagen within like the first minute or two of the fight. It was ridiculous. He's dangerous. Aside from all the clowning and the stuff, right? Because everybody hates him, of course, right? Because the guy, I think people's issue with him is when he was posting with the belt, right? That's what it was. So he's hated. But if you look all beyond that, look beyond the hate for a second, it's a guy who is a good fucking fighter. I mean, what is he on, like a 7-fight win streak or something like that? Even take the Petr Yan fight out of the equation, and look, he's 20-3. He's 20-3. So he won that DQ against Jan the first time around, right? He beat Sandhagen before that, beat Munoz before that, beat Sterling before that, beat Stamen before that. That's a good one. Beat Johns before that. And then he lost to Marlon Moraes December 9, 2017. But since then, technically, Aljamain Sterling has never lost a fight. And if you want to say he was getting his ass beat towards the end of the Petr Yan fight, which I would agree to, take that out of the equation. He's still a bad man. You know, he's still one of the best guys in the world. He still is. So if this fight goes to the ground, Petr Yan could be in some trouble. But again, based on what I saw, Petr Yan was even winning the fucking... Well, he was winning the wrestling exchanges. That didn't surprise me. But even on the ground in some of the transitions and scrambles, I mean, Petr Yan more than held his own against Aljo. More than held his own. So, I don't know, man. It's not that interesting to me. It's more interesting than the main event, but it's not that interesting to me overall. And now we go to the people's main event. The people's main event, quote unquote. I didn't make that up. That's the only reason I'm saying that I do agree with it, though. Just to clarify, it sounded a little contradictory there. So we got Gilbert Burns versus Khamzat Chimaev, right? This is a fight that everyone's looking forward to. This is a fight that everyone wants to see. This is a fight that people are talking about, people are raving about, and they want to see what Khamzat Chimaev can do. Now, again, for the 5th fucking time, this is the people's main event, right? That's what they're labeling this as. I've seen the UFC label it as that. I've seen Ariel Helwani label it as that. I've seen many other people label it as that across platforms like Twitter, other social media platforms, whatever the case may be. So, just think about this. If it's the people's main event, just how big of a star is Khamzat? Pretty fucking huge. Because let's be honest, like how much does Gilbert Burns contribute to this being the people's main event? That big of a fight. The most coveted and anticipated fight on the card. How does Gilbert Burns tie into the fold? Does Gilbert even get 40% of the credit? 30? Does Gilbert even get 20% of the fucking credit for this? It almost seems like Khamzat is obviously pushing this, right? He's pushing this fight, and everyone wants to see it because It's like the Conor McGregor effect, right? Which is a terrible comparison in terms of like skill and all that. I just mean it in this way specifically. Conor was a beast, right? But Conor could fight a tomato can and sell 1.5 million pay-per-views. But the difference is, the better the opponent Conor fought, the more the pay-per-views still went up. At the end of the day, you still need a good dance partner. So Khamzat is a big star. Definitely a big star. But he got his dance partner now. No one can talk shit. No one can say, oh, he fought the number 11 ranked guy in the league, who was a very good opponent. But he's still number 11. He fought an unranked guy. He fought this guy out of the UFC, this, that, and the other. He's fighting the number 2 ranked guy in the world. He's fighting a guy who dropped the pound-for-pound king. He's fighting a bad man, the guy who just beat Wonderboy Thompson, who just solved that puzzle. So this is a tough matchup for Khamzat Chimaev. It's going to tell us everything we need to know about him. Is he going to face adversity? I don't know. But if he doesn't face adversity, isn't that terrifying? Because, I mean, Gilbert Burns is good. He's no slouch. Even if he loses a fight, he's going to get his. He's going to get a little bit in there somehow. Even against Kamaru, dropped him to a knee before he got finished pretty early, but still, he had his moments. Is Khamzat just going to steamroll this guy? And if Khamzat does steamroll this guy, like, what can we say? What can we say? You can't say anything. There's nothing to be said at that point. Except line this guy up for the title fight. Now, a lot of people are going to disagree, and they're going to say, yeah, the Leon Edwards fight's booked, this, that, and the other. And I've heard it from people, and I get that. But tell me, riddle me this. When has Dana White ever said something, set it in stone, and it doesn't end up happening? When has it ever happened? Yeah, it has happened. Dana said shit before that was never going to happen, and it happened. Dana said shit, something that was going to happen, and then it falls off and doesn't happen. Dana said a lot of crazy shit. So for Dana coming out and saying Leon Edwards is going to fight for the title, it's clear cut, or the UFC, I'm not buying it. And I'll tell you the number one reason that is going to pump this shit up if Khamzat wins. I don't know if Kamaru Usman is in the corner or not. If he is, holy shit, that fight's definitely going to be next. But let's just say he's not even in the corner. Khamzat takes the mic. Khamzat smashes Gilbert Burns, rather. Takes the mic and says, I just smashed your boy who dropped you. I just smashed your boy who you've been training to fight me. Let's go. I'm going to smash you next. I'll kill you, whatever. You know, he always says, I kill you. But yeah, I think that's what happens. So, yeah, I do think that's what happens. I think Khamzat smashes him, and I think that's exactly what's going to happen. Like, I'm laying that out there, but that's actually what I think is going to happen. And so, when that happens, how can you possibly deny Khamzat Chimaev of a title shot? And a lot of people, a lot of diehard fans aren't going to like this, right? But here's the deal, guys. Let's pull up how many followers Khamzat Chimaev has. Versus Leon Edwards. Khamzat Chimaev, 3.4 million followers. Let's just confirm that it's updated. That's on Instagram. Let's check out Leon Edwards on Instagram. See how many followers he's got. $252,000 followers. Khamzat Chimaev smashes Gilbert Burns. Khamzat Chimaev grabs the mic and he says, Kamaru Usman, I just smashed your boy who dropped you. I just smashed your boy who you've been training to beat me. Now I'm going to smash you. If you're the UFC and a guy with that following, with that buzz, a guy with 3.4 million followers in comparison to Leon Edwards' 250,000. If you're telling me that Khamzat does that and Leon is fighting for the title next when that fight hasn't even been booked yet, I don't agree with you. And for any Leon Edwards fans out there, just, stick with it. Stay tough, because I don't know what's going to happen, but just be positive. You might lose your title shot here, guys. For the UK fans out there, love you guys, but man, your boy might get shit out of a title shot. And I've said this on multiple occasions on this show. I've said it before. Now let's talk about inside the octagon, Khamzat Chimaev versus Gilbert Burns. I think Khamzat's got the striking advantage. He's got the power advantage. We've seen him put motherfuckers out. We've seen a good boxing display from Khamzat Chimaev. We know he's got the length. He's a way longer guy. He's a taller guy. He's probably a stronger guy. Now let's transition to the wrestling advantage. Who you giving the edge to in the wrestling advantage? I'm giving it to Khamzat. The only place where I'm giving the advantage to is in the jiu-jitsu department for Gilbert Burns. But I don't even know that. I don't even know. So there's two aspects of the fight where I think Khamzat definitely is better than and would win and dominate in. The third one, I just don't know. That's a problem for me. That, to me, spells domination. I think Gilbert's a tough guy. I think Khamzat Chimaev wins by a finish in round 2. I think he chokes him out. I think he ends up getting him on the ground and choking him out, gets his back somehow. Now, I know Gilbert Burns is a better... Again, I don't even know that. But I guess Gilbert Burns is a more qualified, credentialed jiu-jitsu practitioner than Khamzat Chimaev, right? We could say that. But I think Khamzat's wrestling and his ground and pound and his ferocity is just going to get him to a point where he's going to be on Gilbert's back. He's going to have Gilbert's back, and I think he finishes it with a rear naked. Yeah, that's what I think. Round 2. I think Khamzat's never seen the third round of a fight. Never seen the third round of a fight, and for a reason. He's an absolute monster, right? But I think this fight, Gilbert at least is tough enough where he'll take it into the second round. Like, I'm talking about this guy like he's Thanos, Like, it's funny because Gilbert Burns is a tough guy. Gilbert Burns is Gilbert Burns, right? And it's crazy to me that now there's this guy that I'm thinking is just going to run through the number 2 guy in the division. Like, it's crazy, man. But that's how good Khamzat is, man. I've been saying this since day 1, since episode 1. You could check that out. Khamzat is a real deal. And I'm not alone here. I'm not standing, on an island, A lot of people agree with me. And whoever's not on board, I think, should probably get on board real soon, or they're just going to be disappointed. Because he's going to keep winning. If he fights Usman, which I don't know. I think that'll be next. If he fights Usman, definitely going to be Usman's biggest challenge ever, I think. Now that's a lot. It says a lot because you got Colby Covington, right? But I don't know. And that's a fight too, If Khamzat could beat Gilbert Burns, I'd love to see Khamzat versus Colby for a number 1. That's a true number 1 contender fight. Because think about this. Colby is a guy who was competitive through 10 rounds with Kamaru Usman. Right? You could say that. Very competitive. If he goes out and beats Masvidal, dominates him, and he goes out and beats the boogeyman that no one wants to face, can you really deny Covington a title shot at that point? Just a thought. So moving down the card, we got Mackenzie Dern versus Tisha Torres. Now, you talk about ferocious. Tisha Torres is ferocious. She brings the fight all the time. Like, the nickname matches it. It fits the description, the tiny tornado. Because she brings it. She's a ball of fire. And you got to think she's got the advantage in the kickboxing. Mackenzie's nothing to write home about in the striking, Tisha Tisha also does a good job of mixing it up. She mixes up the kicks, she mixes up the punches, very good from both sides. Right hand, left kick, right kick. She's a very well-rounded fighter in terms of stand-up. But what's going to happen when Mackenzie takes her back? What's going to happen when Mackenzie gets a hold of her and is able to trip her up, or whatever the case may be? Because I do think that's what's going to happen in this fight. I think it's going to be a tough outing for Tecia Torres. Mackenzie on the ground is very good. And when you talk about the striking, again, she really is nothing to write home about, but she's getting better. You look at her last few fights, she's getting better. Now, what's Tecia Torres going to do in this fight in terms of the takedown defense? She's got to be drilling the takedown defense in this camp, because we know where Mackenzie Dern's going to want to take this fight. We know that the path to victory for Mackenzie Dern is on the ground in a submission, something along those lines. We know that the jiu-jitsu is a strong suit for Mackenzie Dern. So you got to believe she's going to want to take that to the ground. You got to believe Ticia's going to want to keep that standing. Now, Tecia, from what I've seen in her last few fights or so, she moves very well. She moves very well side to side. She's very good at circling the octagon, very good at creating space when she's in danger, or just creating that space in a fight and keeping the opponent at bay. But this is a fight where you're definitely going to want to do that more than ever. You're definitely going to want to use that movement and not let Mackenzie get close to your legs. And Mackenzie doesn't have great wrestling. We saw her struggle a little bit in the last fight. She didn't look too great in the wrestling. You know, she got a couple of her takedowns stuffed if you go back and watch that. But once she does get you to the ground, once she is able to get on top of you, on your back, you're going to be in trouble. Most girls in that division are going to be in trouble. And Tecia, you can't say she's got the advantage. She'd be in a very compromising situation if this fight were to get to the ground. And I think this fight is eventually going to get to the ground. I don't envision Tecia just walking her down or just being able to walk out of danger. Now, the problem is this. For Tecia to really impose her will and do what she has to do to almost win the fight, she's going to have to be prone or willing to be open to accepting a takedown. Can she get up if she gets taken down? It's tough. It's tough to say. I think Mackenzie Dern wins that fight. I think Mackenzie Dern wins via round 2 submission, just like Khamzat Chimaev. Yeah. So far, I've got Alexander Volkanovski, just kidding, Petr Yan, Khamzat Chimaev, of course. I got Mackenzie Dern, again, second round submission. And then we got the first fight on the card, which, you know, respect to both guys. I thought, based on a couple of fights that I've seen on the prelims, at least a few, that those would probably be the first fight on the main card over the Vince Pichel versus Mark Madsen fight. But hey, it is what it is. Mark Madsen, a guy who's undefeated, right? He's a tough guy. Hasn't really seen much adversity in his career. And he's going in there against a guy who's another very tough guy. Against a guy who is very good as of late. You know, Pichel's good. And if this fight gets to the ground, Pichel's got very good submissions. Very good submissions. So this is going to be, it's going to be a test for Mark Madsen. When you look at what he's done, his body of work, you can't deny it. And if he keeps winning, you know, you're going to want to get him in there with a ranked guy soon. So this is going to be a big fight. It's going to be something that's fun to kick off the main card. You know, it's kind of hard to call, if I'm being honest, just because based on what I've seen from Pichel, Madsen, I haven't seen much of him, but I know he's undefeated. So it's tough. I'm going to go Madsen. I'm going to have to go Madsen. So that's my main card picks. So if you're a fan of the podcast, if you follow the podcast, you know that for every pay-per-view main card, just the pay-per-views, just the main cards, we do the fight picks. I'm 10-1 on that shit. Now, we did include UFC London into the fold, which I did mention before and after. But that's because UFC London had like the pay-per-view feel, you know, such a stacked card that I might as well have done it, you know. I couldn't resist myself. So right now, it is 10-1. 10 fights called, 1 fight lost. That one fight was, it was a female fight. I forgot what it was, but it kind of fucked me up. It was a Molly McCann fight. I should have bet. I should have bet on Molly McCann. I didn't. That's on me. So yeah, if you look at the rest of the card, it's not bad. Ian Gary versus Darian Weeks. That is a good fight. That's a fun fight. You got to think Ian Gary wins that one, right? Ian Gary brings it. Aspen Ladd versus Raquel Pennington. That's a fun fight. Number 4 versus number 7. Mickey Gall back in action versus Mike Malott. Mike Malott. If I pronounced that wrong, I'm sorry. This is your debut, sir. So I'm not too familiar with you. I know you are 1-0, as it says here. Let's look at Mickey Gall, because Mickey Gall is a guy who out of New Jersey. So, hey, if anyone out there from New Jersey, fuck yeah. You know what I'm saying? But I will root for you. But Mickey Gall, I've rooted for him, man, for so long. He's let me down a couple times. If you're a Mickey Gall fan and you remember the Sage Northcutt fight, they were riding high at that point, right? Like, we were riding high. What was he, like 3-0, 4-0, and he was looking really good. And it was looking like Mickey Gall was going to be a star. He could talk shit on the mic. He could do his thing. And then things just went bad. So, but when you look early in his career, I mean, you know, his first 2 wins in the UFC were against CM Punk and Mike Jackson, right? I mean, there's nothing to write home about. But again, do you blame him for taking those fights? Like, especially the Punk fight. Like, if they're going to put more money in my pocket to beat a bum, a wrestler, no disrespect to CM Punk, that's what I'm going to do. Sage Northcutt versus Mickey Gall. This is a fight that a lot of people had Sage coming in there to win. You know, a lot of people wanted Sage. A lot of people had Sage winning. I'm sure the UFC envisioned Sage winning that fight. They were trying to build up that young fighter, and Mickey Gall, another good young fighter, Mickey Gall beat him. He beat Brown, or did he lose to Brown? How did this go? See, the UFC, if I said like one fight wrong, I apologize, because the UFC's website is all kinds of fucking retarded, if I'm being honest. Nonetheless, it's been a tough road for Mickey Gall. It just has. UFC, you need to fix your fucking website. This is just ridiculous. It's been a tough road for Mickey Gall, though, nonetheless. And yeah, man. He's not what I envisioned coming out. He's not what, I'm sure he's let a lot of fans down, but I can only hope that, similar to a guy like a Bobby Green, or like some guys that have taken their licks and been able to rise back, I can only hope that the same happens to him. You know, that he could learn and adapt. And here's the one thing that's good about him. So there's a lot of advantages and there's a lot of disadvantages coming into the UFC. Maybe when you're not ready to. You know, the disadvantages are you're going to face guys that are better than you in at least one department, and you're going to lose. The advantages are you're going to gain a shit ton of experience. Because if you're fighting the best guys in the world, even if you're losing, that's a lot to correct. What do you really learn from in a win? It's like what Faraz Zahabi said. You go in there, you knock a guy out, something along those lines. He said, you win a fight. What do you learn? You learn in the losses. And I just hope the same can be applied for Mickey Gall. So this is a fun card, no matter how you want to spin it. I mean, it's a good card from top to bottom. My issue with it is just the 2 title fights. I don't love them. I just don't. But hey, that's just me. I think Alexei Oleinik is on the card. If I'm not mistaken, he's on the early prelims. Even the early prelims are pretty good on this thing. Yeah, Alexei Oleinik versus Vandera. So it's a good card. All right, let's get into some MMA news now. So we got Car Jitsu sees grappler compete inside a vehicle on icy lake. What is this? Nothing to write home about, I guess. Gilbert Burns says, there's nothing special about Hamzat Chimaev. I don't see a monster. Interesting. I mean, if you're going to go in there and face Hamzat, you got to have that mindset, right? If you're going to do this, you got to fully believe you can beat him. I'm sure, well, I don't know, because Hamzat's terrifying, and I wouldn't feel that way, but I'm sure Gilbert thinks that he's going to win the fight. I would hope, or else you ain't winning the fight. Marcin Tybura falls ill. UFC 273 fight with Rosenstrike canceled. Now, this is something I wanted to talk about because I was a little confused. I had seen some people talking throughout the week about the Marcin Tybura fight versus Jairzinho Rosenstrike, and I went today to look into the card. I didn't see it anywhere, so I was like, oh no, what happened? Did it get pulled? So I guess that's what happened. That would have been a fun fight, you know? That would have been a fun one. I think, obviously Tybura would have wanted that one to the ground. Rosenstrike's got the power in his hands, would have wanted to keep that going. Rosenstrike tweets at him, get well soon. So, all good, No beef there. Reschedule the fight. There you go. I mean, if he fell ill, what did he have? Does it say what he had? Nope. I guess not. Just says he fell ill. Khamzat Chimaev slams table during fiery exchange with Gilbert Burns at UFC 273 presser. Did you guys see that yesterday? I'm a fan of Khamzat. It almost felt, I guess forced. Because I don't know if you saw it, but the first shots that Khamzat took at Gilbert kind of came out of nowhere. It was weird. Like, it was all good and cordial. They had that exchange in their towels cutting weight the day before. And then Khamzat just starts talking shit like crazy all of a sudden when the cameras are on him. So, I don't know. I think I like Khamzat, but I hope that this comes off as authentic to people. I hope it's authentic for him because I don't want him to just think he has to be Conor McGregor and like start talking shit and all that. Like, you're good enough to fight. You yourself are a good enough fighter where you don't have to talk shit, dude. Like, you sell yourself. You have 3.4 million followers, not because people like your press conference highlights. People like you in the ring. People like the shit you talk in the ring. And I just hope that it's genuine if you are shit talking like that. Now, you saw the embedded video for UFC 273, just the press conference overall. The embedded obviously gives you a deeper look into it. But the press conference for UFC 273, you saw Aljo try to face off with Piotr Jan, and they had to be separated. And what enticed that, I think, is Volkanovski said, I know we're not allowed to face off, but I want to do it for Volkanov with Korean Zombie just for the people. And that enticed Aljo to be like, yo, Jan, let's face off, whatever. Had to be separated. And yeah, I just hope whatever Aljamain Sterling is doing, I hope he wins the fight because he's talking a lot of shit. He's trolling a lot. He's coming in with the helmet, with the Jaguars helmet. And I think he's getting under his skin. Under Jan's skin, and not in a good way for Aljo. I just think Jan's getting irritated and wants to fucking knock his head off earlier. I don't know. So, did I give my pick for the Jan fight specifically, how that was going to happen? I don't think I did, but I do envision Jan probably, I got to say, Jan finishes him this time around because I felt like we were trending towards a finish in the last one. But with that being said, it's ironic because everything happening for Aljamain, I just hope he gets it done. I hope he gets the W. He's going to need it. He's going to fucking need it, guys. Because the trolling, everything he said about how the first fight was a fluke and how he was able to do what he did at like 50% or he wasn't himself. You better get it done, Aljo. You better get that shit done because everyone is watching you now. You're on a big stage. This is, I guess, a big fight. Yeah. Darren Till on Khamzat Chimaev and fighter mentality ahead of UFC 273. You'd be a fool to say he's not nervous. Really? This is interesting. They're both phenomenal athletes, Darren Till says about the Gilbert Burns vs. Khamzat Chimaev fight. This sport, what we do, Kamar Usman, he posted something the other day that hit home with me and I'm sure and a lot of other people. 99% of the world don't know what it's like to be under those lights and face adversity and fear. For myself as well, I don't want to talk a lot about excuses, but in the past, what I faced, people don't know the half of it. And to stand in front of that, the fear and the adversity is just something. And I think a lot of what Darren's saying here ties into why, if you remember that whole Stephen A. Smith incident when he said Cowboy Cerrone quit in the Conor McGregor fight, and a lot of people gave him all that backlash, and it's just a situation that just turned from bad to worse real quick. The reason why it spiraled so much is because it's a lot of what Darren Till's saying. Like, these guys are putting it out there on the line. They're fighting in 4-ounce gloves in their underwear in front of the world, these guys and girls. And they're doing what a walk to an octagon that a lot of people would not make. A very small percentile of human beings would make. So it has to be respected. And when you disrespect that, there's going to be repercussions. And I like the fighters that do respect that aspect of the game, that mentality. Alexander Volkanovski demands presser face-off with the Korean Zombie. Rips off shirt. I didn't see him rip his shirt off. That's interesting. But yeah, that's what prompted the, not interesting, but you get the point. I didn't see it. But that's what prompted the Aljamain Sterling versus Petr Yan thing. So Luke Rockhold to Paulo Costa. You're just a bitch and you're on steroids. No, you're just a bitch and your steroids aren't working anymore. So Luke Rockhold talks shit about Paulo Costa. He goes, so within all these rules, it's like, all right, you don't want to make weight. You want to make all these excuses. You're just a fucking bitch when it comes down to it. And your steroids aren't working anymore, the Rockhold said in the MMA Hour. You got caught up and you're looking for a way out. He's always needed assistance in whatever way. It's obvious. So fucking show up. Show out. Hey. He's not wrong. I mean, Paulo Costa has been in the media and the news for a lot of the wrong reasons. If you want to see an interesting reason, check out my interview this week that I had with Joshua Fabia, where we talked a little bit about what happened on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi the night before, where he was clowned about the wine scenario. Am I saying I believe it? Am I saying it's 100% all true? No, but it's worth a listen. Now, I kind of want to say something real quick about that. Had a lot of people say, why bring, a certain guest that I had interviewed on in the last episode or in one of my past videos. And this is the thing, guys, is I'm not agreeing with the guy. I'm not siding with the guy. I'm just trying to get a story. I'm trying to get stories out there. I'm trying to entertain you guys one way or another. So the things Joshua Fabia was saying, a lot of the stuff, whether I agree with it or I don't agree with it, is irrelevant. I'm not siding with anyone. I'm not siding with anyone, or I'm not disagreeing necessarily with anyone that I get on the show or anyone that I will have on the show in the future. You know what I mean? It's just to get stories. It's all about the experience. Insight that maybe a common fan like myself doesn't have. So Paulo Costa fires back at Luke Rockhold saying he's a bitch. And Paulo Costa puts Luke Rockhold, too old, retired fighter, out of the fucking ranking. Shut up, fragile chin. Now, here's the thing. I laugh because Paulo Costa kind of does have a fragile chin. I mean, Luke Rockhold kind of does have a fragile chin, kind of. No offense to you, Luke, but we've seen you get starched a few times in your last few outings, my friend. But that'd be a fun fight. I actually think Luke Rockhold could win that fight. In the grappling, Luke Rockhold has a superior advantage. So, but I think Costa could starch him too, just like the other guys have. So it's all possible there. That'd be a fun fight. Luke Rockhold versus Paulo Costa is a fun fight. Where both guys are right now, just make that fight. It's a fun fight. Luke Rockhold gets a win. He's more of a known name. If he gets a win, you could leapfrog him back into that top 5 almost, top 6, and he's in business. Khamzat Chimaev and Darren Till's first interview. It's Team Smesh Bros for life. The Smesh Bros thing is fucking hilarious. You know how all the Russians say, I smashed this guy instead of smashed, the accent. I love it. This bromance has been awesome for MMA and just content, for enjoyment, to put a smile on people's faces. So I'm all for it. It's funny when they keep asking Dana White about it, and Dana's like, what do you want me to say about it? Like, I'm happy for them? Like, I don't understand. It's so funny. But it's because I just think it's because it's so funny for fans, for the hardcore, and people who really know both guys. Like, it's an interesting clash that these two guys were able to get together and be friends. It's an interesting clash of personalities. Conor McGregor faces 6 charges for alleged driving dangerous incident in March. Yeah, Conor's got to chill out, man. This was in March. This was a month ago. I never knew what happened with this Conor McGregor incident in March, the whole driving thing. So let's see what happened. I don't know exactly what happened with the whole thing with Conor in the car. Mr. McGregor, on March 23rd, McGregor's representative, Karen Kessler, released the following statement to MMA Fighting. Mr. McGregor was driving to the gym when he was stopped by Gourday, was that an officer, I guess, for alleged road traffic violations. He passed a drug and alcohol test taken at the station. McGregor, 33, was remanded on bail and is currently scheduled to return to court in June. He reportedly made no statement in court, but afterwards said to reporters when asked to comment, just straight back into training, my man. Conor McGregor has been charged earlier today with 2 counts of dangerous driving, no insurance, failing to produce insurance, and having no license. I love how you put no insurance, failing to produce insurance. Isn't that the same thing? And having no license. I mean, that's going to get you. Especially if you're an asshole about it, which I'm not saying he was or wasn't. Anderson Silva set to box Bruno Machado in 8-round exhibition match in Dubai. Wow, I did not know this. So Anderson the Spider Silva's coming back in Dubai against Bruno Machado. 8-round exhibition, so it's not an official fight. I guess it's not a professional fight. It's an exhibition. Anderson's 46. Silva, 46, defeated Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. and Tito Ortiz in the boxing ring in 2021. It was Tito one. We know Tito's not a great boxer, but Tito's not even a good boxer, hell. But the Chavez Jr. one shocked me. I mean, Chavez Jr. ain't no boxing like GOAT or anything, but very good boxer. The guy was very good for a long time. His father, we know what kind of family bloodline he comes from. So Anderson might be in the conversation for one of the best combat athletes of all time. I think Dana said it a long time ago. He's like, Anderson might be one of the best combat athletes of all time. And I might agree with you. I might agree with you on that, Dana. If you guys hear me shaking a little bit, it's a little cold in this room. I'm sorry. I seem to have put the air on a little too much, and I don't want to walk back downstairs and stop. Aljamain Sterling responds to Petr Yan's threats of hotel brawl. I'll give you my room number. I heard there was an altercation between Yan and Sterling in the hotel. Was it before or after the press conference? And then they had that altercation at the press conference. Listen, I mean, this is getting heated. It's some bad blood. But stylistically in the octagon, it's just not a fight I'm too excited about, guys. That's just what it boils down to for me. Patricio Pitbull, cross-promotion is MMA's next step, but Dana White afraid to see champions lose. I don't think it has anything to do with that. I just think UFC's his baby. You know, he's built the UFC up from the start. Him, Hunter, Lorenzo. And, you know, to kind of start doing that, it almost takes away from what you built in the UFC, in my opinion. Like, if I'm putting on the best shows in the world already, why would I have to bring in other people? And then it just opens up a whole door. No. Like, when people talk about MMA, they say UFC, right? That's what most casuals do, right? That's the fucking goal for Dana White to do. You know? People watch the NFL. They ain't watching football in general. NBA, they ain't watching European basketball, at least not here. And in most parts of the world, except for that actual country. So Dana's done a good job in doing that. I don't think that's why. But unfortunately for us, for the fans, yeah, cross-promotion would be great. Because who the fuck wouldn't love to see, like, an Israel Adesanya fight, not Michael Venom Page, but, like, obviously different weight classes. Michael Venom Page is 170, but like a Wonderboy Thompson versus, like, Michael Venom Page, some shit like that. It'd be fun. Real fun. How about DJ versus Davison Figueredo? Or maybe we can do DJ and Dillashaw now finally. You know, things like that. But again, I get why Dana wouldn't want that to happen. I get it. Tatiana Suarez feels Carla Esparza doesn't have the strength to beat Rose Namajunas' summer return. I hope to see Tatiana Suarez back. She's a stud. If anybody who watches this show knows that I've been banging this table for Tatiana Suarez to come back and to show everyone that she's still one of the 2-3 baddest women in that division, in a division of killers. And on that note, we're going to call it a day. Follow us on all platforms. Talkin MMA. We are on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Spotify, Anchor FM, and of course, YouTube. While you're here, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you're not already subscribed. We'll see you next time.